Prakhar. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good afternoon, rather. Oh, it's morning, just morning.
Yeah.
Okay. How are you doing, Prakhar? Are you working somewhere right now?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And where are you located?
Ma'am, Ranchi, Jharkhand.
Okay. Okay. Very good. So you have an interesting DAF. You have this comic books on your DAF. Which is your favorite comic series?
Ma'am, currently I am reading Mouse by Art Spiegelman, and that has intrigued me a lot. Earlier, I used to delve into the Indian comics, Amar Chitra Katha, and these Phantom. My father had a Phantom collection, so I read that.
Acha, but the traditional cartoons that are Tom and Jerry and all, you have not seen? Donald Duck,
Ma'am, Tom and Jerry, they don't have any comics. They had a series in the TV series in Cartoon Network. Tom and Jerry
This
did
is
not
very
have any
highly
comics.
specialized, I must tell you. Comics they don't have.
Yes, ma'am.
Comics they don't have. They have series. So are you into Tom and Jerry? Are you not into Tom and Jerry?
Ma'am, in childhood, I used to watch Tom and Jerry, but
Tell me what is strange about Donald Duck?
Ma'am, pardon?
What is strange about Donald Duck? The character Donald Duck?
Ma'am, it is a Disney character.
What's so strange about him?
He doesn't wear pants, I guess.
What?
Ma'am, he doesn't wear pants, I guess.
He's not a duck, he's a drake, first of all. He shouldn't be called duck, he should Donald Drake kehlaya chahiye.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Have you heard these nursery rhymes? Ringa Ringa Roses and all those?
Yes,
Did you
ma'am.
ever go through that?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, have you thought at a deeper level about them? Like, what does Ringa Ringa Roses refer to?
Ma'am, I guess it was on the storybooks that were such as the books about Hansel and Gretel and
No, they have deep. I'm writing Ringa Ringa Roses. It was actually about, if I recall correctly, the plague. A very serious matter is brought in the form of this so that the audience can get educated in this manner and get involved.
Yes, ma'am.
Comics don't end with seeing it is actually a very serious thing brought. If I recall that we all fall down, it was to do with the plague,
Yes.
So similarly, you get something across as a comedy. What about our common man? What was his name? Which is the
Ma'am,
cartoon.
R.K. Lakshmi.
So it's all very serious. Who's your favorite? Are you into cartoons or comics only?
Ma'am, I am into both cartoons and comics.
Chalo, we'll move on this later. I would love to talk to you on this. Now, you were in the Russian hostel. What is the Russian hostel? Why is it so named?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, my father works in HEC Heavy Engineering Corporation. So it was a PSU which was developed with the help of the erstwhile USSR.
Got it now. Okay. Now, since you have this Russian origin, who is this? What do you think of the Navalny matter?
Ma'am, I believe it is a gross violation of human rights. Navalny did spoke about Mr. Vladimir Putin. He was a biggest critic of Putin. But I don't think we have any right to say about that matter because officially Russia has not commented on that, and Russia being a close ally of us, without the exact facts, we cannot comment on that.
That's correct. Now, where do you think this Ukraine war is going to end? What's happening today? What does the papers carry today, Anat? It's like, twists and turns.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, recently Russia has occupied a major portion of Ukraine city, and I guess
Ukraine city, which city?
Ma'am, sorry,
Ukraine is a country. There's a city in the papers today.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I think the war will go into a war of attrition. Ma'am, we have seen that Western countries are dissatisfied with the support that Western countries are pouring. We have seen that currently UK has gone into recession. Also, there is a widespread discontent in the US about the funding that
Where do you think it's going to end? To get back to my question.
Ma'am, I think it will be a war of attrition.
It is already a war of attrition.
Yes, ma'am. I think they will come to a compromise. Russia would take control of the cities that it has occupied, and Ukraine would be satisfied with what it has currently now. I don't think it would
left of Ukraine. And what about NATO? What will happen? Where do you think NATO will go?
Ma'am, I think it will depend on the US elections that are going to happen. If Mr. Donald Trump does come into power, we have seen that Donald Trump is a critic of NATO.
You're referring to his recent statements. All right, very good.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now tell me, has the best part of the state gone to Jharkhand? The richest part of the state with the bifurcation?
Ma'am, Jharkhand does have about 40% of the mineral reserve in India, but Jharkhand does suffer from a resource curse, as we can say it. So
I'm not educated at all in my question. Yes or no? The answer should be yes or no, and then you explain
Ma'am, I
why.
would say partially, but because Jharkhand doesn't have better connectivity, it doesn't have enough infrastructure and connectivity, so the resources that it has, it cannot leverage upon those resources.
Maybe that's because of thick forest, thick forest there. So connectivity
Yes,
obviously is limited, right?
ma'am, connectivity is also limited. Also, it is a
Okay, now you are
landlocked state.
district magistrate of Gumla.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you tackle the Naxal menace? And just give me 3 crisp points.
Ma'am, first is to the strategy adopted by the army that is winning the hearts and minds of the local people there. The second is better infrastructure
Talk
and
like a district magistrate. Don't talk like a philosopher.
Okay.
You are
Ma'am,
district
first is
magistrate. You have to do specific, concrete things. Three things you are given choice to do in order of
ma'am,
importance.
better infrastructure and connectivity by allocating more resources upon that.
The DM has
Uh,
enough resources to be able to get infrastructure and connectivity, or that comes from from Ranchi.
yes, ma'am.
I told you, I
Ma'am,
reminded you 2 times. You are DM.
yes, ma'am. Ma'am, second would be to better vigilance among the police. Better special commando battalions such as Cobra commando battalions can be placed in areas where there is high Naxalism. And the third would be to educate the villagers, make vigilance about them, and make them report about any activities or notorious elements that are present there.
Why is Eiffel Tower in the news today?
Ma'am, Eiffel Tower is closed due to ongoing protests.
What do they want?
Ma'am, the farmer protest in across Europe is going on. The farmer protest is about the rising
No.
costs.
What has caused the closure of the Eiffel Tower? The farmer protests. Okay, we'll move on. Last. Should I ask you that question? I think that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Navneet, please.
Morning, Prakhar.
Good morning, sir.
Now, India-Canada relationships have seen quite a low tide, I will say, for the last 1 year.
Yes.
What are the causes behind it?
So the main issue is about the Khalistan issue and the killing of Mr. Nijjar. It is the Canadians, most particularly Mr. Trudeau, has alleged that Indian intelligence agency has assassinated Mr. Nijjar, which has created a rift between them. And as a quid pro quo, both the Indians and the Canadians the diplomats have been made to leave the country. So the Khalistan issue is the main point of contention between India and Canada right now.
What is full name of Nijjar?
Sorry, sir, I don't recall.
Okay. The Canada also made another allegation in the in last fortnight, a very serious allegation on India.
Sir, is it about Mr. Pannam and the contract that Mr. Gupta of Raw has placed upon his?
No.
Sir, then the visa issue of the Indian students' visa being reduced?
No. Anyway.
Multiple choice.
Recently, Supreme Court gave a judgment on electoral bonds,
Yes, sir.
So there are two opinions. One is, of course, number of people are appreciating the Supreme Court judgment, but there is a viewpoint that the judgment will set back and the black money will again come into role in elections. What is your opinion? What do you feel?
Sir, I believe a middle ground should have been taken instead of scrapping the electoral bond. The electoral bond was brought in a positive light so that the records can be maintained. Earlier, there was a 20,000 rupees where parties were directly given fund, but now it was through a middleman, SBI, which allocated the fund to the SBI, and the SBI gave the bond, and the bond has to be encashed by the parties. The main point of contention, I believe, was the opacity in the electoral bonds. So if we can remove the opacity, if we can make it transparent by, I think, leveraging artificial intelligence and blockchain technology, we could have arrived at a better solution to this.
Can Supreme Court decide policy?
No,
You
sir.
said a middle course should have been worked out. Can Supreme Court do that?
Supreme Court cannot do that, sir. Supreme Court can issue guidelines to government to make law on certain subjects, but Supreme Court cannot decide that. So according to Article 50, there is separation of power between the executive judiciary. So Supreme Court cannot do that.
Okay. You're talking about separation of powers. In the past few years, the judiciary and the executive is not seeing eye to eye on several issues. Can you name one particular issue on which there is divergence of opinion?
Sir, I believe it was in the recent Chief Election Commissioner issue, the appointment of Chief Election Commissioner. Supreme Court issued guidelines because it was not present that the collegium should consist of the Prime Minister, the the leader of Lok Sabha opposition, and the Chief Justice of India. But however, the government did make a certain law upon the appointment of Chief Election Commissioner, but it scrapped the Chief Justice of India and put together a Minister of Cabinet that was to be appointed by the Prime Minister. So this was one
No,
of the main.
I asked you the conflict between executive and judiciary. I did not ask you the conflict between judiciary and the parliament, because this appointment of commissioners, chief election commission and election commissioner, the law was enacted by parliament and not by executive.
Okay, sir.
There is another important issue which is causing bad blood between executive and judiciary.
Sir,
And every other day it is in news.
Sir, about the appointment of judges, the delay that the executive is doing upon the appointment of judges of the Supreme Court and High Court.
Okay, you read more about it. Now, coming to Kashmir, Supreme Court gave a judgment holding abrogation of Article 370, but at the same time, it also gave direction that a certain task should be completed before a particular date. What was the direction of the Supreme Court, and what was the government's response to that direction?
Sir, I believe it is about the conduction of election that should be taken place of the legislature and the panchayati bodies in the Jammu and Kashmir region before September 2024.
Okay, and what was the government reaction to that?
Sir, government believes that a delimitation should be conducted because after the partition of Jammu and Kashmir from Ladakh, there is not enough data to conduct elections. Also, there are certain issues regarding election right now. I believe that was the response.
Has not the delimitation exercise been completed as regard J&K?
Sir, in 2020, it was being conducted, I believe.
Okay. Now, you are a student of computer science and engineering.
Yes, sir.
Now, suppose you become a district magistrate tomorrow. How will you apply your knowledge gained during your engineering graduation in improving the day-to-day administration?
Yes, sir, in computer science and engineering, I learned about the different mechanisms to solve a problem, such as greedy approach, dynamic programming, brute force approach. So these provided me with a multifarious approach to tackle any problem. So I believe this strategy could help me in tackling a problem which could not be tackled through a single lens and can provide me with a multiple lens. Also, the technical knowledge that I gained in my engineering and subsequently in my internship about working in a team, these can help me work better upon the aspects upon with my team in the district magistrate administration. Also, sir,
let me give you a real example.
Yes, sir.
Now, India today, anybody, whether you know driving or you don't know driving, you are able to get a driving license.
Yes, sir.
By paying money to a broker who sits outside the RTO's office. How will you tackle that problem with the help of technology?
Yes, sir. So, to get a driver license, it is compulsory to have a driving test, and this driving test can be made possible by the use of blockchain and artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence can be used for facial recognition that to make sure that the person applying for the driver test is present on the day of the test. Similarly, this can be attached to a data blockchain where the information about the facial recognition that is applied from the facial recognition can be sent to the blockchain, and a centralized data server can be created upon based on that. So
how that database will help, whether he knows driving, he is qualified to be given a driving license or not?
Sir, to get a driving license, it is necessary that a facial photo is taken and from that facial photo, the facial matching can be done upon the day of the driving test. So the main point of problem in the driving to get a driving license is that driving test is taken by the broker on some other person. So this can be used to curb that menace.
Okay. Thank you, Prakhar.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Navneet. Gauri, please.
Prakhar, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Now you work with KPMG. Can
Yes,
you
sir.
tell me briefly what is KPMG and what is the size of its market value or revenue as of today?
Yes, sir. Sir, KPMG, or the full form is Client Beat Marvick Godler, is an accounting firm, also one of the big four accounting firms that delves into three: or tax and audit, or tax, audit, and consultancy, and helps companies to leverage their tax and other benefits. Right now, KPMG last year reported a revenue of about $36 billion, and currently about 250,000 people are employed all over the KPMG.
Okay, good. Now, there is a viewpoint that instead of CAG auditing our accounts, we should get these government accounts audited from companies like, private audit companies. KPMG could be one of those. Maybe some Indian companies. What is your view on that?
Sir, if it is audited by private, it could reduce the workload of the CAG. As we have seen recently, due to lack of funding and lack of personnel, the audit reports by the CAG have reduced in size as compared to previous years. So this could solve that problem. However, when giving accounting to a firm, there is chances of data being leaked. There is chances of the KPMG is not an Indian company. So if that data leads into the account of foreign companies, it could lead to problems. Also, sir, I think KPMG, if he gives donation to political party, can lead to quid pro
You
quo, where
misunderstood my listen. You misunderstood my question. I'm saying that instead of CAG auditing, it is done by the private sector audit firms, chartered accountants. So it's not both. It's either or. What is your view on that?
sir, I believe it is a positive step, but more needs to be done, because I believe, like, if giving to private firm, the main issue is of security and risk of the data, where it is not in the case of CAG, but it could reduce the workload. So I believe proper research should be done to ensure that.
Okay. Now, Bokaro.
Yes, sir.
Give me some brief history of Bokaro.
So Bokaro is called the Bokaro Steel City and is the district capital of Bokaro district in Ranchi. The main source in Bokaro is the Bokaro Steel Plant, which was developed with the help of erstwhile USSR and is one of the largest steel plants in India as well as Asia. Bokaro also is also surrounded by the river and is part of the command area of the Damodar Valley Corporation.
Okay. Now tell me, Jharkhand is very rich in minerals. You said about 40% of total minerals of India are in your state. Why there's so much corruption in Jharkhand? Many chief ministers have been facing these charges of corruption. Why?
Sir, I believe because there is a lot of factors. When due to large mineral resource, there was a mafia raj in Jharkhand, particularly in Dhanbad area where the most of the mines are located. Apart from that, Naxalism also affected the Jharkhand area. So a kind of nexus developed between the politicians, the Naxals, and the mafia, where in bit of quid pro quo, political funding, and this most corruption charges were there.
Now you read comics. Tell me some similarity between the Jatka storage and comics. You know
Sir,
Jatka storage, but
Sir, Jataka tales are one of the Buddhist stories where, with the medium of animals and the day-to-day life of these moral education and lessons were provided to the children. Similarly, sir, comics parallel can be drawn on Indian comics such as Amar Chitra Katha and Twinkle, which dwells into that. Like Shambhu Shikari is a comic of Twinkle, character of Twinkle, where he finds himself in trouble with various animals of the kingdom. So moral lessons can be provided through the help of comics. Literacy can be improved with the help of comics. and these parallels can be drawn between the Jataka tales and Hong.
Okay, my last question to you is that you are representing India at the United Nations General Assembly,
Yes, sir.
and you have been given the task of presenting India's case for permanent membership of United Nations Security Council. So how will you present your case?
Yes, sir. Sir, to present, I would point out the fact that India is the largest population, has the largest population in the world at about 1.44 billion. So India represents a large diaspora, and a lot of the Indian neighbors, such as Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, also feel familiarity with India and its diaspora. Secondly, India contributes a large to the working of the United Nations. The United Nations peacekeeping forces, the largest consignment is given by Indians. Similarly, sir, I would point out that proper representation in the United Nations Security Council is not given. For example, Africa doesn't have any permanent members. Similarly, there is dominance of Western nation, and the veto power the constant veto power done by them, as seen in the recent Israel crisis as well as the Ukraine war. So I would point these issues where India, as a voice of the global South, can help counter them.
Okay, thank you so much, Prakhar.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Gauri. Varun, please.
Okay. So, Gauri, you're a computer science engineer, right?
So, Prakhar.
Prakhar, sorry, Prakhar.
Yes, sir.
Prakhar, you are a computer science engineer,
Yes,
right?
sir.
And now, then you went into KPMG.
Yes,
How
sir.
come you don't you like computer science engineering?
Sir, in KPMG, my role was a data analyst. It was
Okay. But
was an
still, why didn't you
internship.
take a core job, right? Why not a core programming job?
Sir, I was offered a pre-placement offer, but after doing the workflow, I found that my work was very one-dimensional. It was related to data analysis and engineering. Whereas in UPSC, I thought that it is a multifarious job. In the starting year, it is a very ground level with multiple dimensions such as policy making, implementation, grassroots
Okay.
development.
Relate
So
computer science engineering with sociology.
Sir, I believe sociology can help point out the faults in our society, and based on that, so computer engineering can help develop solutions. For example, in Indian society, we have seen sociology can help develop the data set that can be used to train the. For if I have to use an example, recently the subcategorization of scheduled caste or OBCs, sociology helps in the field study of these. Whereas we have seen that in the subcategorization, the main issue is on the discord between the castes, that some castes are particularly well off, whereas some are the worse off. So sociology, the field study in sociology can help acquire that data, and based on the data, the computer models can be trained to give various simulations and experiences.
Okay. Yesterday, there was we saw an article in the Hindu. It talks about the use of artificial intelligence in music industry, especially by A.R. Rahman. Can you name the movie and the song?
Sorry, sir.
And the voices of two dead singers were used.
Sorry, sir, I'm not.
You're not gone for that. Okay. What's the issues, the copyright issues with AI?
So the main issue is of misinformation, and deepfakes particularly are being an issue. Recently, ChatGPT launched Sora, that is a text to video prompt, where giving a text promoted a video. So this, in the election year, particularly where we are seeing lots of election going on, this can be used to create deepfakes and images where political candidates can be used in compromising positions or spreading misinformation. AI can be used to that. I think the other use is AI can be used for cybersecurity issues. Particularly, AI can be modeled to guess the password or completely systematically hack into an account. The third, I believe, artificial intelligence can be used.
Come back, Prakhar. Okay. Prakhar, what is inheritance and polymorphism?
Sir, inheritance and polymorphism are concepts of OOPS, object-oriented programming system. Inheritance refers to the process where a subclass or child class inherits the property of its parent class. For example, if a parent class has property of integer values, the subclass or child class would also inherit the property of integer value. Whereas polymorphism refers to the a practice where a class can be represented in various forms, like function overloading or operator overloading are the areas of
Okay,
polymorphism.
now that we have talked about these two things, now relate sociology with computer science.
Okay, sir. So just like in inheritance, where the child class inherits the properties of the parent class, similarly in the concept of lineage and descent, the property gets transferred, like the child acquires the traditional occupation of the parent. And in polymorphism, we have seen that same practice can be repeated in multiple ways. Similarly, same occupations of such as artmanship, like in Jharkhand, there are various artmanship such as Jadu Patiya, Dokra, Sohrai, and these all represent the tribal culture and artwork. So this can be an example.
Okay. Now, you are a very creative person. Okay.
Yes, thanks.
How would you utilize your creativity while being in civil services?
Sir, being a creative person would help me to figure out creative ideas to solve a problem. For
Okay.
example, if a problem is not being solved by one way, I could have done through other examples, such as I said, the use of dynamic programming, the use of greedy approach, brute force approach. So it could give me a multi-dimensional approach to a problem. Similarly, I believe that creativity can be leveraged to promote the economy, the traditional craftsmanship, where they could be provided a method and means to help boost India's GDP.
Okay.
Good one.
There's a namesake, some Prakhar, very famous on social media. Have you heard of him?
Sir, I have read that a civil servant named by the name of Prakhar Kumar Sharma qualified some years back, but I have not.
Okay, there's someone called Prakhar Gupta. He's very famous on social media, particularly amongst the young ones, the youth. Okay, nonetheless, so we are witnessing a lot of technological transformation. Do you think there's a cultural lag, the way maybe we are able to incorporate those technological changes, or do you agree that is there a cultural lag, or is there maybe are we keeping abreast with all the changes?
So the concept of cultural lag was given by Mr. W.G. Ogburn to signify that technological changes take place in a fast way as compared to the cultural changes that bring about that. I believe that there is a cultural lag, sir, because we have seen that with the help of Geo and other things, the technology has improved, the smartphone penetration and these have improved, but the digital literacy is still lagging behind. So this can be an example of cultural lag. Also, I believe that the older generations are not as tech savvy as compared to the younger generations. This can be another.
So that is the only criteria of seeing that, let's say someone can use a mobile phone, or let's say someone can use ChatGPT, or someone can Google. Is that the only criteria we see that there's a cultural lag?
I don't believe so, sir. Not only limited to technological fields, but I believe it can be in the form of any technological advancement.
For instance, what are the technological advancements other than internet that you can think of?
Sir, the devices used by disabled persons, for example, the artificial limbs, these can be an example which can be produced with the help of 3D methods.
Okay. And you do read comic books. Are comic books a good reflection of society?
Yes, sir, I believe. For example, the common man of R.K. Lakshman is pointed out very true picture of the Indian society at that time.
So, do you watch Batman movies?
Yes, sir.
Which is your favorite person who's acted as a Batman?
Sir, in the Batman animated series, sir, he recently died. I cannot recall. It's Kevin Conroy, Mr. Kevin Conroy.
Okay. And you've seen the Batman?
Sir, Christian Bale's, Mr. Christian Bale's.
I'm talking about Pattinson's character. How is it
The
different?
Batman, yes, sir.
Yes. How is it different from Christian Bale's
So,
character?
Mr. Christian Bale Batman was based more on reality and realism as compared to Mr. Pattinson. Also, Mr. Pattinson's Batman had a detective noir feel to it as compared to Mr. Christian Bale's.
All right. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Prakhar, that brings us to the end of our formal interaction. Now
Yes,
for
sir.
feedback. How did you think the interaction went as far as you are concerned? What were the hits and what were the misses?
Ma'am, I believe I could have articulated much better. I believe my articulation is a problem. I believe I also need to read more about the current affairs, ongoing issues.
First of all, you need to stop saying, I believe.
Okay.
You know, belief is a very fundamental thing. I believe in Lord Ram. This is my basic faith. But I'm of the view, or I think, I'm of the opinion. These are better words to use, huh?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know, a lot of people, candidates come saying, I believe, it jars. So use belief only when it's a belief you're talking about, okay? Otherwise, I'm of the view, or I think, it's good enough. Well, first of all, you have to be brief. You have to resist saying everything you know. You know, that stage was in the mains, that's over. Now the thing is how crisply, how briefly you can get your point of view across. And avoid saying more than 4 or 5 sentences on any answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Your answers run to 8, 10 sentences, you know. So they'll lose their patience.
Yes, ma'am.
The board, you know, they have time. They have had so many candidates they'll have in the day. They've got the pressure to announce the results by the third week of April, and you know, so it's going to be a lot pressured. So what will happen is, by the time you come to the point, they've moved on,
Okay, ma'am.
and they'll have formed the opinion. He doesn't know. He's giving background. So a lot of candidates give background. You give background because you know everything. You want to say everything on that particular aspect. So avoid that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thirdly, say in points. You know, you tend to say apart from this and also. So one doesn't know when the story is going to end. So they'll just cut you short. Instead of that, it's better to say, I'll answer in 3 points or 2 points or 4 points. Never go more than that.
Yes, ma'am.
You have to be brief and crisp and come to the point directly. First point, X, 1 sentence. Second point, Y, 2 sentences. That's all. So avoid being too talkative. You know, like we had planned and timed it, but we've done 45 minutes already with the normal questions we ask every candidate. So they won't do that. They'll just cut you short and they'll form an opinion. So be careful. I know it's difficult when you know so much to kind of compress and say only part of it, but prioritize in your mind. When a question comes, think, that's the most important point. Anything, Bokaro, this, all history, geography ki zarurat nahi hoti hai. Just answer crisp 3-4 points. 2, 3, 4, not more than that ever. Huh? Then, for example, your for examples are there for every sentence you speak. Please resist that temptation. I know coaching centers say example explains it and this, that, and the other, but too much of a good thing is also not good. 1 or 2 examples you may give, but just don't cite so many examples. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Basically brevity, huh? Crisp and to the point. Then try to hear the question and understand it. For example, I'll give you the example in that, you know, you were asked about your electronics and this and computer and all that. Why did you choose to go to KPMG and do data analysis? And you got into why you chose to get into the IAS.
Okay.
You get it? So you should actually have been on KPM, data analysis. Why did you go for that? Why didn't you go for program? That was the question. You were so busy answering, or you're expecting the question why IAS, that you didn't really hear it properly. Be careful on that. Huh? Be very careful. Hear the question, pause a moment, then reply. Then try to go to the heart of the matter. And I'll just give 2 examples across the board. One was the example of the relations souring between India and Canada.
Yes,
right? You jump to Niger and the killing. There was little more to it. When Trudeau came to India, he was hobnobbing with all the people who were declared Khalistanis by government of India. And this person was under UAPA, he had been declared a thing by government of India. Then it comes to this. But, you know, it was brewing. Similarly, the conflict between the Supreme Court and the government. So you cited straight away CSE law. CSE law is not even a conflict. The Supreme Court said that till you form a law, you form an interim committee and this can be the composition. And the government prepared a law, and the legislature prepared a law, in which they had, instead of Supreme Court Justice, they had Chief Justice, they had a minister. So real conflict, then you came to it after that, the appointment of judges. So what will happen if you start saying that, they'll cut you short there only. And they'll say he doesn't know. You get the point?
Yes,
Now there are many things happening. The court is pulling up on a lot of points. So my suggestion now, I will not go into every question and every answer. Similar thing, Jharkhand also. It went round and round. I asked, is it the better part or not? So later you said yes and no. That's fine. Fair enough. Yes and no. And give a yes, one for yes and one for no. Don't get into history, geography of everything. Unless you are asked. If the discussion comes and goes further and further, it's fine. But you see, you have prepared on many things of your DAF. If you pick up only one, you will miss the opportunity for all the others.
yes,
Right? And opinions are always, one person may share the opinion, second may not. So if you do 5 questions, the likelihood of your being judged more fairly is better, is higher. And you would like to be judged more fairly for the multidimensional personality you are, right? So broadly, this is what I had to say. So crisp and to the point. Also newspaper. The other points you have yourself assessed, newspapers, etc., that goes without saying. And when is your interview, Prakhar?
On 28th February.
20th February. So what is to be done is, you have time still. You have about, today you have about 7-8 days, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
just pick up priority items and just prepare points. Try to, and you know so much. So you try to get it all across. Just prepare points. And of course, the newspapers are the Bible. Whatever comes in the newspapers, I assume you prepared the Hamas story. I assume you prepared Ukraine. Just do the twists and turns. It shouldn't
Yes,
be
ma'am.
that today's paper carries the name of a city, you can't remember it. Right? So just do that. And stay cool. 27th, don't do anything. Just relax. Read the
Yes, ma'am.
papers, relax. Until 26th, work hard.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, 6 days you work hard on the points that have been suggested. Basically, come to the core and be brief. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All the very best.
Thank you, ma'am.
Amit.
Thank you, sir.